Welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. I'm the Mayor, Councillor Jasmine Nguyen. I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. This meeting is deemed open to the public via an online live stream available through Brimbank City Council's website. Members of the public will not be recorded in this process. We apologise to the members of the public who wanted to attend this council meeting in person this month. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, the chamber is closed. This meeting is available on live stream tonight and a recording will be made available after the meeting. Item 1, we're going to please stand for the acknowledgement of country. On behalf of Brimbank City Council, I respectfully acknowledge and recognise the Wurundjeri and Boonwurrung peoples as the traditional custodians of this land and pay respect to their elders past, present and future. I ask councillors to remain standing for the council commitment. As the council, we will act in the best interests of the Brimbank community and consider the immediate and long-term impacts of our decisions. We will make these decisions fairly and without bias. We will uphold all of our obligations under the laws of Victoria and council's local laws and will act in accordance with our code of conduct. Councillors may sit. We're now moving on to item 3. There are no apologies or leave of absence for this meeting. Item 4, we're moving on to disclosure of conflicts of interest. Councillors, is there any declarations of conflicts of interest? There are none. Moving on to item 5, designation of items as confidential. There are 12 items to be designated as confidential. May I please have a mover of a motion to designate the items as confidential? Is there a mover? Councillor Papalia?
Yes, I move the motion as per the screen.
Thank you, Councillor Papalia. Is there a seconder of this motion? Councillor Borg?
I second this motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, do you wish to speak to this motion?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yep. I would like to put this motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Moving on to item 6, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. May I please have a mover of a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous council meeting? Councillor Borg?
I'll move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Is there a seconder of this motion? Councillor David? Thank you, Councillor David. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. Well, I would like to put this motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. For items 7 and items 8, there are no condolences or congratulations for this evening. We'll now move on to item 9, which is public question time. And here we have Ms. Blatchford. I understand we have received questions from the members of the public. And please note, due to the large number of questions we received, if a person has submitted 2 questions for this meeting, the second question may not be asked due to time constraints. Questions that are not asked and answered as part of tonight's meeting will be included in the minutes or receive a written response from officers. So I'll ask Ms. Blatchford to present the questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First question from Karina Chianta. Will council support and assist with the organisation of a public meeting as suggested by the Macaque community group to discuss the impacts on the Brimbank community regarding the 3rd Melbourne Airport runway?
At the moment, council has no current plans for a public meeting of this type.
Second question from Karina Chianta. What other sources of information has the council available to the community regarding the impact of the 3rd runway that is not from Melbourne Airport?
At this time, Council is unaware of any other sources of information regarding the impact of the third runway.
First question from Alex Miano. How is it possible for Victoria Development to bypass Brimbank Council in the planning of the new housing, sporting and parks district in Canley, corner of Ballarat Road and Canley Drive?
The Minister of Planning has powers under the Planning and Environment Act 1987 to act as the planning authority in an application to amend the planning scheme.
Second question from Alex Miano. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. Does Brimbank Council do their own polls or survey to see how aligned the Victoria Development and local need is, given that Brimbank Council is not involved in the planning?
Well, Council's facility sports development plan provides a strategic direction for the provision of sports facilities based on the evidence around demographics, state and local sporting trends, and community feedback.
First question from Marissa Medillo. What are your climate change policies?
Well, Council has adopted the Brimbank Climate Change Emergency Plan in June 2020, which is available on our website. And just to note, Council is aiming for net zero emissions for Council operations by 2030 and the Brimbank municipality by 2040.
Second question from Marissa Medillo. What's happening in the open area in between Canley Drive and Ballarat Road? The community of Canley need more spacious playgrounds.
The land located between Canley Drive and Ballarat Road is owned by Development Victoria, who has plans for sporting facilities in the area, and they have been consulting with the local community.
First question from Jamie Ramsey. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. Can Council confirm if any waiver of rates will be occurring?
Any decision regarding the waiving of rates must be made by the Council during the adoption of an annual budget. And this item was also considered in the December 2020 Council meeting. Council currently has in place a financial hardship policy to assist those that are having difficulty paying their rates.
Second question from Jamie Ramsey. Given ratepayers are at this stage are contributing approximately $58 million towards the building of the $60 million Brimbank Aquatic Centre in what is a rate-dependent council, have any projects and or services been postponed or restricted in scale due to decrease of available funds for spending?
Council allocates funding for services and or projects on an annual basis as part of the annual budget process in accordance with Council's financial plan.
First question from Victor Lorena. What is Council doing to advocate against the impacts of the third runway project to Keilor and Keilor Primary School?
Council has expressed concerns about the potential health and other impacts of the proposed third runway to the Brimbank community and has written to Melbourne Airport, Air Services Australia, the Australian Government Chief Medical Officer, the Victorian Chief Health Officer, the Aviation Noise Ombudsman, and the federal government about potential noise and amenity-related concerns. Council is also preparing submissions to both the 2022 draft Melbourne Airport Master Plan and the preliminary draft Major Development Plan for the third runway, which are currently in exhibition, in which community impacts will be considered.
Second question from Victor Lorena. This question has been disallowed under the governance rules 7.12.3 as it deals with subject matter already answered. First question from Candice Ferrugia. What is Brimbank Council doing to help with the resources and infrastructure that would be required to support an additional 840 households in the new Canley estate, in particular, new schools, kinder, etc.?
Our council officers are preparing a submission to the proposal currently being exhibited. None of the community and other infrastructure identified by Development Victoria forms part of council's long-term budget, and this will be addressed in our submission. The submission will be considered by council at its meeting in April.
Second question from Candice Ferrugia. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. Given that some councillors are much more active in the community than others, is there any plans to introduce KPIs on councillors?
Well, Division 5 of the Local Government Act 2020 sets out the role and obligations of a councillor in performing their duty. No KPIs are set out.
First question from Agatha Salaba. With this development, will Canley Drive be widened as there will be more traffic turning in the estate from both main roads, Ballarat and Furlong, as it is only one-way traffic?
A review of state government documents that are currently on public exhibition does not indicate that Canley Drive will be widened as part of this development.
Second question from Agatha Salaba. Will there be new playgrounds and open spaces for the new area?
While not specific, the currently exhibited plan shows areas of public open space proposed throughout the site.
Question from Natalie Perez. The Waterfield Park is not safe, particularly the bridge. There are lots of big rats and long grasses on the water. Is there a plan to update it? How often should this be maintained?
These wetlands are designed to be part of our natural environment and at times will harbour wildlife. The Waterfield Park playground was recently upgraded and is maintained on a monthly basis, and maintenance of the wetlands is completed as required.
Second question from Natalie Perez. What are the responsibilities of a group before they organise an event with fireworks? There has been fireworks recently without notice to give notice to the local residents in Canley. Are they required to give notice?
Any event involving fireworks would require an event permit from council, including notification to residents within a minimum of 500 metres from the firing event by event organisers.
First question from Graham Blaw. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. What steps will council take to ensure that the ratepayers are protected from the clear intent of Development Victoria in their plans for Canley to shift costs to council?
Council officers are preparing a submission to the proposal currently being exhibited. The submission will be considered by council at its meeting in April.
Second question from Graham Blaw. Given the appalling lack of any other sports choices in Canley apart from soccer, when will council arrange for installation of the first set of Australian rules goalposts, a very cheap and easily doable option, and negotiate for urgent cost sharing of basketball, netball, volleyball and tennis courts for the community, as was promised in the original plans for Canley?
Council's provision of sporting facilities is guided by the adopted Sports Facility Development Plan. In close proximity to Canley is football and cricket opportunities at John McLeod and Robert Bruce Reserve, tennis and athletics at Cicella Park Reserve, and softball at Moore Park Reserve.
Question from Emily Heaney. This question has been disallowed under the governance rules 57.12.3 as it deals with subject matter already answered. First question from Fiona Lambert. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules regarding the proposed Development Victoria Canley development of 840 additional households. How does council intend to cover the increased need for kindergarten places?
Council has developed an early years review, which is being considered at this council meeting. This review provides recommendations for implementation to address any current or future shortfalls in kindergarten spaces across all of Brimbank.
Second question from Fiona Lambert. This question has been disallowed under governance rules 57.12.3 as it deals with subject matter already answered. First question from J1. This question has been disallowed under governance rules 57.12.3 as it deals with subject matter already answered. Second question from J1. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. Regarding the Canley development, will council advocate for environmentally sustainable development, ESD principles, to be included in the requirements section of plan in order to ensure that we truly provide for sustainable and affordable housing?
Council officers are preparing a submission to the proposal currently being exhibited, which will include ESD principles.
First question from Wes 1. This question has been disallowed under governance rules 57.12.3 as it deals with subject matter already answered. Question 2 from Wes 1. What are council's current plans and timelines for the Deer Park Library upgrade?
Council has completed the St Albans Library and Deer Park Library preliminary study, which is available on council's website, which is the first step in planning for the redevelopment of these facilities. The next stage of planning, subject to availability of funding, is to determine the additional services both sites will offer and develop a business case for each facility.
First question from Kelly Kutajar. Will council support calls for a large social enterprise not-for-profit cafe training and employing long-term unemployed, disabled and disadvantaged with training and meeting rooms in a community hub next door?
While council would have no in principle objection, as far as we're aware, no such calls or detailed proposal has been received by council for consideration.
Second question from Kelly Kutajar. What steps are Brimbank Council taking to get a major bus route down Canley Drive using electric buses?
Council will consider a transport priorities paper later this year. The purpose of this document is to advocate for transport infrastructure and service upgrades in Brimbank.
First question from Margaret Nicolau. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. A major environmental concern regarding the Canley development is protecting and saving the 6 grassland species, including the sunshine orchid and the legless lizard. What is Council's plan of action to protect these species and restore these valuable grasslands?
Council officers are preparing submission to the proposal currently being exhibited. The submission will address the proposed removal of the grasslands, the impact on threatened species, and whether the proposed approach is adequate.
Second question from Margaret Nicolau. This question has been disallowed under the governance rules 57.12.3 as it deals with subject matter already answered. Question from Andrew Dimitriou. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. The issue of affordable housing / social housing in Development Victoria's proposal for Canley raises many questions. By housing a new low socioeconomic community in minimum 75 square metre micro houses with no front or backyard, there is a high possibility of creating a Gateway Hill ghetto. What actions will Council take to ensure this does not become a problem?
Council officers are preparing submission to the proposal currently being exhibited. The submission will address the proposed proportion of affordable housing and density proposed by Development Victoria, as well as the impact of higher density on infrastructure, open spaces, and community and recreational facilities. This will be considered in the Council April meeting.
Second question from Andrew Dimitriou. This question has been disallowed under governance rules 57.12.3 as it deals with subject matter already answered. Question from John Viney. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. When recently notified of the new pricing structure for the new centre, I was astounded to find there was no availability of a gym-only membership. Why can't a gym-only option and an off-peak option be included in the membership options?
The Council has undertaken significant benchmarking and research to ensure new membership options are aligned to industry standards, balancing community need with operational and financial viability. While off-peak and gym-only memberships are no longer considered standard practice in the industry, Council offers a concession discount of 20% and a youth discount of 50% for eligible persons.
Question from Gary Egan. The proposed relocation of the Keilor Golf Course maintenance shed is included in the adopted Sydenham Park Master Plan, SPMP 2020, in the implementation plan phase 2 as a future action. We request that the Council include funds in the FY23 annual budget to undertake the relocation of the golf course maintenance shed. Will the Council include a commitment to provide these funds as part of the Sydenham Park Master Plan Amendment Update 2022?
As you highlight, Council's prioritising actions as part of phase 1 of the Sydenham Park Master Plan Implementation Plan. This involves establishing a new park network and restoration of Robertson's Homestead. Council will be considering funding for phase 1 projects as part of the draft 2022/2023 annual budget. The relocation of Keilor Golf Course Maintenance Depot will be considered as an action in phase 2, subject to the completion of the above phase 1 actions and further consideration for funding in future annual budgets.
Last question from Gary Egan. This question has been edited to comply with the Brimbank governance rules. When will the review of the operating model of the golf course be undertaken, and will the Council include Brimbank community members, including a representative from the Friends of Sydenham Park, in the review?
An operational review is intended to come to Council for decision later this year. In undertaking this work, community stakeholders will be consulted, including Friends of Sydenham Park. And I believe that is all the questions. Thank you for submitting your questions. Now we'll move on to the next item, which is petitions. There is one petition to be received. This is 10.1, proposed roadway alterations to Derrimut and Lawson Streets at Albion. And this has 25 signatories. Can I please have a mover of the motion to receive the petition? Councillor David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the petition to be received and noticed, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Is there a seconder for this motion to receive the petition? Councillor Liu.
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Councillor David, do you want to speak to this motion?
No, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liu, do you wish to speak to this motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Would any other council want to speak to this motion? All right, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Moving on to item 11, minutes and reports of delegated committees. Well, there are no minutes of reports of delegated committees. And we'll now move on to officer reports, which is item 12. So there are 21 officer reports for consideration by council tonight. Councillors, I wish to advise, in the interest of conducting all of the business on tonight's agenda, I will not be granting extensions of speaking time this evening. If you have alternate or amended motions this evening, you must draft these and send them to the governance team by email so they may be shared on the screen and form part of the meeting. Otherwise, we may have to defer the matter until the motion has been reaching and allowing the meeting to proceed uninterrupted. So we'll now move on to the officer report 12.1. This is regarding the planning activity update and delegate decisions, including planning scheme amendment updates. Mr. Walsh, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update on the status of planning permit applications and trends in planning approvals in Brimbank. Also, decisions made under delegated authority during February 22 this year, and the status of current planning scheme amendments. Officers recommend that Council notes the activity update and delegated decisions at attachment 1, and also notes the planning scheme amendment summary at attachment 3. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Councillors, are there any questions for Mr. Walsh? There are no questions. Councillors, is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move an alternate motion as previously circulated.
May I please ask the team to share it on screen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the motion as on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Is there a seconder for this motion on the shared screen? Councillor Rashik.
I second that.
Thank you, Councillor Rashik. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to the motion that you moved?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would. This motion, C212 Brimbank, is a motion that relates to the installation of an environmental overlay over Energy Park. This has had a considerable investment by Council in both advocacy and preparation, and was completed by Council and forwarded to the Minister almost to the day a year ago, and has been sitting on the Minister's desk for that last year. This is a matter of considerable investment by Council and considerable interest by the community. I believe it's probably time now to write to the Minister and ask that the Minister expedite this amendment. A year is a long time to be sitting there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Councillor Rashik, would you like to speak as a seconder for this motion?
Thank you. I think Councillor Lancashire summed it up pretty well, and I commend his motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rashik. Would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? Against the motion? Okay, I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.2, planning application P250/2021 for 6 Gidgee Court, Keilor Downs. Mr. Walsh, would you like to please present?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an assessment of planning application P250/2021 for the construction of 3 double-storey dwellings at 6 Gidgee Court, Keilor Downs, against the provision of the Brimbank planning scheme. Officers recommend that Council issues a notice of decision to grant the planning permit, subject to a range of conditions that are detailed at attachment 5 to this report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Councillor Kerr, I see that you put up your hand. What is this? You're on mute. Councillor Kerr, you're on mute.
I'd like to move an alternate amended motion, please.
Thank you. We'll note that. But councillors, are there any questions for Mr. Walsh? None. Okay. So, yes, Councillor Kerr?
Yep. So I'll like to move the amended motion, please.
you like to put it on the screen? Yeah.
So as per the business papers, I'd like to move a motion that council resolves to refuse application P250.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. So just, it's on the screen at the moment. Councillor, can you confirm that you can see us on the screen?
Yes, I can. Yeah, as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Tarkos?
I'd like to move the amendment put forward by Councillor Kerr as per the shared screen as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Gidgee Court is very typical of a residential court located in Keilor Downs. It's filled with family homes with a mixture of elderly residents who have raised their children in the court over the last 35 years. Most of them now have grandchildren and adult children. There are also young families who have made the court their home with young primary school age children running around the court. They have chosen this location primarily due to its safety and large blocks. There are also young couples in the court ready to start a family, again, choosing this location due to its serene, quiet location. Many of these families have invested all they have, renovated their homes with the intention of calling this court home for many years to come. This development does not complement this court nor the character of Keilor Downs in general. Slapping 3 double-storey dwellings on one 600 square metre block is outrageous. The neighbours and local residents oppose this development due to the sheer density of the project. In a court, only the front section can be utilised for parking and to house bins, as the top end of the court is useless due to the shape and cannot be used for these purposes. This means an extra load of cars and visitors, conservatively at least 6 extra cars in the court. This will cause significant congestion and very serious safety issues. This also means on bin night, an extra 6 bins. When there is a 4 bin system implemented, this is a whopping extra 9 bins. Where are these bins going to go? This is a logistical nightmare. Many of the residents are very distressed by this. The residents are not opposed to development. Many of them agreed to 2 side-by-side units would not have caused as much of a concern. I ask my fellow councillors to consider the concerns of the community, to consider the elderly and the kids and the safety of both. Keilor Downs is a wonderful place to grow up, as I grew up there too. We have a welcoming and diverse community. I plead with councillors to consider the character of Keilor Downs, the traffic, safety of the area, and to listen to the community and their really grave concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak as seconder to this motion?
Yes, I would. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just to second what the Councillor Kerr said, but I also wanted to say, not sure if other councillors, I did attend the forum. I actually visited Gidgee Court to see how small the court is, which is off Homestead Drive in Keilor Downs. 22 homes in total on this very small little court. Roughly in this court also has a traffic island at the end of the court, which I'm sure will not be used as a traffic island if this development goes in. The 3 units on 652 square is the kind of intensification that will bring many amenity issues. I'm not against development at all, but it is this kind of overdevelopment that people so keenly support grasslands and trees and canopy that destroys it. So the achievement of 2 units could still increase housing, but also decrease those amenity impacts. However, that option is not on the table at the moment. So with the potential now of possibly 10 cars, if people are visiting, trying to find a car park will destroy this actual court. They won't find any car park because it is such a closed space. It will place pressure and demands not only on traffic, but also on drainage and existing services. Thank you.
Councillor Tarkos. Councillors, any other, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not supporting this amended motion. The issues raised have been addressed in the report, which consists of a detailed assessment against the planning scheme. The detailed assessment indicates there is strategic justification and policy support for this application, as well as a high level of compliance standard.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Councillor Kerr, you do have a right of reply.
Yeah, look, my right of reply to Councillor Borg's synopsis of the report is, what about the residents? What about the community, Councillor Borg? The community has reached out, and as elected officials, we're here to represent the community. These people have lived in this court for over 35 years. And I know, because I've lived in a court myself, it is very stressful on bin day when there's, you know, bins everywhere. People don't know where to put their bins. And I just think that I'm really adhering to these community concerns because I've actually lived it. And although, you know, that report is written on a piece of paper, but it doesn't consider people's feelings and how they feel about living in their own land.
Councillor David's hand is up. Sorry, I have to note that. Councillor, did you have a point of order or? Councillor Dave, if you don't have a point of, please put down your hand.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just like to congratulate Councillor Kerr for sticking up with the community. The only thing for me.
Councillor David?
Yes.
Is that a point of order or not?
No, I didn't put a point of order. I'd like to speak about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Councillor Kerr, you may continue.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm done now.
Thank you. Councillors, I may remind you, if you raise your hand, please note if it is a point of order or not.
Yeah, put my hand up, yes. Am I allowed to speak or not, Madam Mayor?
Councillor David. Councillor Kerr has already made a right of reply. So we'll now take it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. All those against the motion, please raise your hand. Councillors, that motion is lost. I would like us as a councillor to give a different motion for this report. Is there a move of a motion in relation to this item? Councillor Liu?
Madam Mayor, I'll move the motion as per officer recommendations on share screen.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liu, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, just briefly, Madam Mayor. I commend Councillor Kerr to raising an amended motion in relation to this issue, relation to her wards. But unfortunately, we are bound on the planning scheme and the criteria, and it meets all the criteria, and that's why this has been removed, except the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Councillor David, would you like to speak to the seconder?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Liu said, well done, Councillor Kerr, for sticking up to your community and the ward. The reason why I'm voting against it, that amendment, Madam Mayor, is to do with
this relevant to the topic at hand. We're discussing this motion, the new motion.
Sorry?
Please talk about the motion that we're moving.
Yes, I'm talking about this. Yes, this application meets all the building regulations, Madam Mayor. And if you was to go to VCAT, most of those, if we all know that it's set of conditions put by our officers, And if we go to VCAT, we'll be losing most of those conditions. And indeed, it's going to cost this council money. And they get the permit. So this is my belief, and that's the reason why I'm voting for the officer's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Councillors, is there any councillors who want to speak against this motion? Any councillor want to speak for it? Councillor David, if you're not raising a point of order or speaking, please lower your hand icon. Thank you, Councillor David. Okay, I'll now move this motion to the vote. This is the officer's recommendation as the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand.
Can I call a division, please?
We'll just need to do this vote first, please.
Yep.
Okay, that motion carries. But Councillor Kerr, did you say you wanted to do a division?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. I'll now call out your names. Councillor David, Councillor Branton, Councillor Borg, Councillor Liu, Councillor Papalia, Councillor Lancashire, Councillor Dang. All those against the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Kerr, Councillor Tarkos, Councillor Brasic. And no abstentions for that one. Okay, so we'll now move on to the next item. Thank you. So we're now moving on to report 12.3, the Domestic Animal Management Plan 2021-2025. Mr. Walsh, would you please present this report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Following community consultation, a Domestic Animal Management Plan 2021 to 2025 has been prepared, and that's at attachment 1. Council is now asked to consider this document for adoption and submissions the submissions received. So the purpose of this report is for Council to consider the attached Domestic Animal Management Plan for adoption, publication and submission to Animal Welfare Victoria. Our officer recommendation is the Council notes the outcomes of the community engagement, adopts the management plan at attachment 1, and if adopted, submits a copy of the Domestic Animal Management Plan at attachment 1 as required under the Domestic Animals Act 1994. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Councillors, any questions for Mr. Walsh on this report? No questions. Councillors, is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Branton.
With motion as per the screen.
Thank you, Councillor Branton. Any seconders for this motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Madam Mayor, I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Councillor Branton, would you like to speak to this motion?
I just want to say thank you to the officers. I've been bugging Kelvin about this for months because I really wanted there to be a little bit more done about their stray cat situation, because I love cats and I also love the wildlife and they don't go together. So I'm really happy to see that there's going to be some investigations into some potential for extending or making more impactful, possibly free desexing programs. So I hope that's where we'll end up. But yeah, thank you, team.
Thank you, Councillor Branton. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak as seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Briefly, I would like to endorse the comments made by Councillor Sarah Branton. This is an important process that we're engaging in that will help to deal with our domestic animals and protect our wildlife. So it is an important thing. And again, I would agree with Councillor Branton. Thank you to the staff for preparing this and processing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Councillors, anybody would like to speak for the report? Against? Okay, I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.4, approval of borrowings. Mr. Bray, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is for Council to authorise the Chief Executive Officer the power to authorise and execute loan documentation with Treasury Corporation Victoria for borrowings in line with Council's annual budget and long-term financial plan. This report is recommending that Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer and Mayor to sign and seal mortgage documentation if required by the Treasury Corporation Victoria to secure the loan with Treasury Corporation Victoria. Thank you.
Councillors, any questions for Mr. Bray? Any mover of a motion in regards to this item? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would move the motion that is on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lancashire. Any seconder for this motion? Councillor David.
Seconded, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly to say that while this is largely an administrative process in terms of our borrowings, it is nevertheless very important to the ongoing operation of council. So I commend the officers in their report on this matter and the dealings with it. Thank you.
Noted. Councillor David, would you like to speak as seconder?
No, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors want to speak for the report? Against? I'll put the vote. Okay, so all those who are for it, hands up. That motion carries. Moving on to report 12.5, quarterly budget report. Mr. Bray, can you please present this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is a standard report presented to Council quarterly. It includes a detailed 3-month review of Council's financial position as at 31st December 2021. This report is designed to identify any major variances against the budget. The report is presented to Council for noting. The report also seeks Council approval to nominate projects for funding under the federal government's Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Bray, councillors? No questions. Is there a mover for this item? Councillor Rashich.
I would like to move this report as per shared screen. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Any seconders? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to second this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Rashich, would you like to speak as mover for this motion?
Thank you. As portfolio councillor for Brimbank Innovation, which includes custodianship, innovation and management of assets and financial sustainability, I present to Council the quarterly financial report for the period ending 31st of December 2021. I would like to acknowledge and thank all Council officers who have contributed to this report. The report has been prepared in accordance with Australian accounting standards and the requirements of the Local Government Act 2, provide ongoing assurance that the Council has implemented the principles of sound financial management, demonstrate prudent management of the financial risks faced by Council, and ensure full, accurate and timely disclosure of financial information relating to Council. A detailed 6-month review of the progress of Council's financial position as at 31st December 2021 and a point in time forecast to 30 June 2022 has been completed. The report outlines forecast operating surplus of 35.44 million, which is favourable to the annual budget by 17.86 million, and contains commentary on the key forecast variances. A forecast year-end cash position of 70.76 million, which is favourable to budget by 21.21 million and outlines assumptions relating to the impact of COVID-19 and capital grant funding. The report shows that decisions are made and actions taken with a strong regard for the financial effects of future generation and the current need of the community. I commend this report. Thank you.
Councillor Rashich. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak as seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Only to endorse the comments made by Councillor Rashich in terms of this report and commend it to my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Noted. Councillors, any other councillor want to speak to this motion? Okay, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.7, the Brimbank, 12.6, governance report for March 2022. Mr. Hogan, would you like to present to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The governance report is a standing item within the monthly council meeting agenda. It is predominantly a summary of recent governance and operational activity written in compliance with the Local Government Act of 1989 and 2020. This month includes the attachment of several delegations to ensure the statutory powers and business of council can be conducted by officers as necessary. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any questions for Mr. Hogan, councillors? No questions. Is there a mover of the motion? Councillor Papalia.
I move the motion as per the business, per the shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this report? Councillor Kerr.
Second the motion as per the business paper.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you
No,
like to
thank
speak?
you, Madam Mayor. No.
Any other councillors who would like to speak to this motion? We'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Now we'll move on to report 12.7, which is the Brimbank coronavirus COVID-19 response and recovery strategy. This is the progress report for October to December 2021. Mr. Hogan, can you please speak to this report?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The intent of this report is for Council to note the implementation of Stage 2 of the Brimbank coronavirus response and recovery strategy. This report marks the completion of reporting in this format, as future council actions will be reported via quarterly council plan progress reports. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillors, any questions for Mr. Hogan? Is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Tarkos.
Yeah, I move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Is there a seconder? Councillor Borg.
Second this motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak as mover?
Madam Mayor, yeah, it's hard to believe that 2 years ago was nearly the last normal week we had before coronavirus changed our lives significantly. Brimbank Council endorsed a coronavirus response and recovery strategy in April 2020. By 21, we had seen significant health, economic, social impacts in Brimbank, as well as seeing outside the box thinking, adaptation and collaboration. A new COVID response and recovery strategy, Stage 2, was developed to guide Council's efforts in mitigating the risk of COVID-19, as well as supporting the community to recover from the impacts. The strategy included 5 objectives: 1, prioritising health and wellbeing; 2, building economic resilience; 3, supporting community resilience and equity; 4, activating public space; and 5, monitoring and measuring and reviewing both COVID situation and impact. Victoria has reopened and emerged from lockdown, but COVID is still ever present. Public health directions have significantly changed and we face a new COVID normal. Brimbank has dropped from its position as one of the highest rates of COVID by LGAs, down by over 20 places. Vaccination rates are strong. Council has recognised the need to support local businesses and wider community, and has additionally worked closely with external service providers to deliver timely, relevant support, ranging from food relief to business grants. Finally, I'm pleased to note that as of the 31st of December 21, the status of the 51 actions in our strategy was followed by 94% success rate and was completed as becoming business as usual, and the remaining 6% strategy actions are scheduled to be endorsed by Council. Thank you.
Councillor Tarkos, Would the second of the motion like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As already mentioned, this is the last progress report that is coming to Council. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the staff for their continuous arduous work throughout this pandemic. As I always say, there is a lot of work behind the scenes. Throughout these monthly reports, we have been kept informed about the progress and about the response and recovery. The reports may be coming to an end. However, as a local government, we will continue to work with the community in its recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Any other councillor want to speak towards this motion? Against it? I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.10, which is the advocacy campaign update. Oh, an 8. Oh, okay, sorry. Before we move to 12.9, let's talk about report 12.8, which is the council plan progress for 2021-2025, year 1, quarter 2. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to note the year 1, quarter 2 progression of the Council Plan 2021 to 2025. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Any questions for Mr. Hogan? Is there a mover of the motion? Councillor Borg.
Move this motion as per business papers.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Tarkos.
I second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, as mover, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As mentioned, this is year 1, quarter 2 report. It supports the Council Plan 2021-25 strategic directions. This report provides results and analysis of 125 actions. 6 of the actions have been completed. One of them is the loneliness and isolation framework, which is complete and now aligned with an implementation plan developed in response to the mental health service provision research report. It's great to see the end of the year confidence level being 96%. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak as seconder?
Councillor Borg covered everything. I just wanted to say that we continue our intensive capital works dashboard pipeline, that I believe if we continued it for the next 20 to 50 years, it still wouldn't even touch the edges. This is such a priority for our people, that they have facilities that they can access and meet, that there are accessible, inclusive facilities, and that continue to be our priority. I note and endorse this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone else who'd like to speak to this motion? I'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to 12.9, which is the draft Brimbank advocacy plan for 2022. And it is my pleasure to bring this report to Council to introduce it. This plan outlines Council's key advocacy priorities for the remainder of our term and seeks partnerships to deliver key programs and infrastructure for Brimbank. Updating the 2019 plan, it reflects the changing world in which we live in. It extends some existing priorities, takes existing campaigns to the next level, while also introducing new advocacy ambitions, particularly for our vulnerable communities and our young people. It recognizes that we are operating in a COVID-impacted world in which climate change is also becoming a terrifying reality. This plan underpins Council's advocacy priorities leading up to both the federal and state elections and the critical investments that are needed to build a better, stronger future for Brimbank. The significance of such a plan is evidenced by Council advocacy success since the release of our previous advocacy plan in October 2019. I am proud to say that since then, Brimbank has successfully advocated for hundreds of millions in state and federal investments for our community across an enormous range of initiatives. We have all worked hard to develop the priorities within and developed with our community in mind now into the future. There are proposed 2 gold categories, transform Brimbank and mental health. We also have 2 silver categories regarding employment pathways and road infrastructure, and 2 bronze categories, which is the local business support and the climate change emergency. In addition, we will continue to advocate for a range of issues we intend to pursue as part of our standard business. These include mitigating the community impacts of the proposed 3rd runway at Melbourne Airport, upgrading our major parks and playgrounds, including Sydenham Park, reducing harm from electric gaming machines and gambling, as well as the construction of a train station at Golden Park. I look forward to seeing the plan come to fruition, and I commend this report to you. Mr. Hogan, would you also like to please speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The intent of this report is in 2 parts for Council to 1, consider the draft advocacy plan 2022, as you have just spoken to, and 2, adopt draft Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly 2022 motions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hogan, councillors? Any mover of a motion? Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative amended motion as per the shared screen. It's for council to consider further strategic advocacy in relation to the development of an outdoor pool at the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre and the establishment of a carers hub.
Practice, please confirm that people can see this.
Yep.
Yep. Any seconder for this motion? Councillor Tarkos.
I'd like to move that amendment as well, Madam Mayor, as per shared screen.
Sorry, there's a Councillor Liu. Do you have a point of order? Why is your hand up? Councillor Liu, you're mute.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I understand this amendment was to 12.14, the aquatic centre. Is that correct?
No, this is Councillor Liu. This is for the draft Brimbank Advocacy Plan 2022, report 12.9. Can I please confirm with Councillor Kerr that this is the office's recommendation, including your additions?
Correct. Thank you. Yes, that is correct.
Noted. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. I have to say I was absolutely gobsmacked when I learned there was no outdoor pool at the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre. Let me take you guys back to 1993. I'm in year 10 at Downs Secondary College. It's summer. My holidays are spent mainly at the St Albans pools. Most of the kids I grew up with didn't have a beach house in Sorrento. Most of their parents worked full time and even second jobs just to make ends meet. We didn't go on holidays to Queensland. We went to the St Albans pools. It's now 2022 and not much has changed. Many youth in our area come from low socioeconomic households. They need this outdoor pool. Ratepayers are funding the majority of this project at over $60 million. Somehow our neighbours over in Moonee Valley have spent $40 million and have a 50-metre outdoor pool. I spent many days this summer in East Keilor at this pool. It's such a cost-effective activity for the family. When I was there, all I could see was the outdoor pool in the grass area filled with families having fun, teenagers having fun, and the elderly all having a great time together. Our residents deserve the same. And as for a carers hub, this is another crucial piece of infrastructure and services that we owe our community. Our community deserve this. Carers are our forgotten citizens, suffering usually in silence with no end in sight. I'm very emotional about this issue because I am a carer. We need to provide them with support and space and resources for their needs. COVID was unforgiving to us all, but especially for carers. I plead with my fellow councillors to please support these amendments for the benefit of our community. And as the Mayor said in her introduction, she's very proud of our plan, which I'm also proud of, because it's you know, it's for the vulnerable and the youth, verbatim. And you know, these two amendments really speak out to the two most vulnerable sections of our residents, which is the young people and the vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Takis, a second, would you like to speak?
Briefly, Madam Mayor, just to commend Councillor Kerr for her amendment. I think that the two, both the outside water was always part of the plan anyway, that we were going to deliver, and also the Carers Hub. Another issue that's been discussed by the Disability Action Group for many years, but needs more certainty. And I don't think this contradicts at all the Brimbank Advocacy Plan for 2022. I think it enhances it, just takes it to a stronger level where we need to anticipate that when funding does come in, and if it's promised during elections, that we are shovel ready for an outdoor pool. I think the outdoor pool is a real necessity for our community, and also that whilst we are building the whole leisure centre with well-being in mind, carers play an integral role in our community, very much unpaid, but they deserve to have facilities that they feel that they can participate in that leisure centre without feeling that they have to organise themselves 2 weeks in advance. There should be facilities there that cater to carers just as the same level as it would cater to someone coming in to use the gym, for example. So I fully support and endorse, and I believe it complements the fantastic draft Brimbank Advocacy Plan. Thank you.
Councillor Takis. Any other councillor who would like to speak for the motion? Any councillor want to speak against? Yep. Yep. Okay. Any councillor want to speak in general for the motion? Okay. Councillor Kerr, you have a right of reply. You want to say anything else?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, I'll now put it to the vote. This is the substantive motion. The substantive motion is the officer's recommendation and the additions that Councillor Kerr has proposed. Please note that. Do we understand? Councillor Liu?
Mayor, so I understand there'll be officer recommendation with Councillor Kerr's point E and F, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
That is what we are voting on. With that clarified, anybody else want to speak? If not, we'll now move on because the roll probably been provided. So we'll just go, councillors, and those in favour, please raise your hand. Yep, all those against, please raise your hand. Okay, that motion is carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to 12.10. This is the advocacy campaign update. Now, the councillors, I am aware that this report was authored at the last minute to capture two very recent significant announcements by the state government, both of which stand as a testimony to our advocacy approach. As you know, council has been advocating long and hard for the Melbourne Airport Rail project to be about the community, not just commuters. We have been determined to work with everyone we can through our Sunshine Vision 2050 and our Let's Build a Better campaign to ensure that Brimbank and Sunshine is a destination, not just a turnstile. So just a week ago, for the state government to announce 9 big ideas for the Sunshine Station Master Plan, seeking community feedback for massive investment surrounding the station, it tells us that we are on the right track, that the state government is ready and willing to invest in our community as connected to the airport rail project. There is more work to be done, but be under no illusion. This is an enormous step in the right direction, and credit to the minister and the government for taking it. I encourage everyone to please make your own contribution by visiting the Engage Victoria website and leaving your views. In addition, just a day later, the state government also announced that works for the removal of the Mount Dermot Road level crossing are now underway, and that the removal of the level crossing is now expected to be completed a year ahead of schedule. And as part of those works, the final design of the new Deer Park train station, recently completely redeveloped, now includes a new integrated bus interchange. The need for an integrated bus interchange has been a key focus of Council's response to the initial announcement of the station redevelopment. Councils, you may recall in May 2021, resolving to write to the Minister and Department urging its inclusion as an essential part of our integrated transport network. It is another huge win for our community, for rail and public and private road users alike. And again, I thank the Minister and the state government for listening and acting. Thank you, councillors. This just goes to show when council does stand up and say their voice, we can affect change. Mr. Hogan, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is, as you outlined, to inform Council of recent state government announcements which are consistent with the advocacy work of Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hogan, councillors? Do we have a mover of a motion? Councillor Liu.
Mayor, I'll move this business paper on the share screen.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Papalia.
I second the motion. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Liu, as mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, I think you outlined all the advocacy the team has done throughout the years, especially with the Sunshine Station Master Plan, and especially with the Deer Park railway stations with the bus terminal. Obviously, the initial plan, there were no bus terminal there. We did strong advocacy from the Brimbank City Councils. We got the minister to listen, and like I always say, if you don't ask, you never get. And with strong advocacy from the team and all the staff, as a result, we got the bus terminal in the actual station itself now. So congratulations to the team. And that's what I say. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Liu. Councillor Papalia, a second, would you like to speak?
Just to thank the team and all of those involved. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any councillors who want to speak for the motion? Against? And I'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.11. This is the early years facilities review. Ms. Dumble, would you please like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is presented to Council to consider adopting the early years facilities review. The draft review was made available for a 4-week period of community consultation. During this period, community members and stakeholders provided feedback through Your Say Brimbank. A total of 10 submissions were received during the consultation period on the draft review. A summary of community feedback is at attachment 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dumble. Any questions for Ms. Dumble, councillors? Is there a mover of the motion? Councillor Borg.
I move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Is there a seconder? Councillor Takwas.
Madam Mayor, I second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, as mover, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As champion of the People portfolio, I am very pleased to speak to this report. Brimbank Council is committed to early years education. In 2018, Brimbank City Council adopted the Brimbank Community Services and Infrastructure Plan 2018-2038, CSIP, which provides direction on future community infrastructure requirements. The CSIP recommends that 5 children's and community centers be built over the next 15 years. Since then, the Victorian government is committed to implement 3-year-old kindergarten for all Victorian children. From 2022, 3-year-old children in Brimbank will have access to 5 hours of a funded kindergarten program each week, increasing to 15 hours per week for 40 weeks of the year 2029. Taking part in a quality kindergarten program at an earlier age leads to positive effects on child development. It has even greater benefits for children who need extra support and are in vulnerable circumstances. Evidence shows that 2 years are better than 1 when it comes to early learning. The introduction of 3-year-old kindergarten will require additional early years infrastructure. The Early Years Facilitation Review report guides Council to ensure the provision of quality early years infrastructure that meets demands across the municipality. The review makes recommendations around how the 5 facilities already planned can meet community need, as well as additional infrastructure that will be required. Madam Mayor, I would also like to thank the people who put in their submissions with regards to this report. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Tarkas is seconded. Would you like to speak?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to commend what Councillor Borg has outlined to be an excellent report. Early years are very vital building blocks to any child's development. Priority needs to be given for Council to pursue the government funding opportunities to address the significant unmet demand. The key areas that were highlighted in this report that have got very high unmet demand are Sunshine West, Brooklyn, St Albans, Kings Park and Auburn Vale. I know that the state government really wants to push growth in these areas, but with that growth, we need the services, we need the kindergartens. Kindergartens are absolutely integral to the development of children. The recommendations that we need 5 new children's and community centres located across those areas must also be raised with government. As far as I'm concerned, with proposals like Development for Victoria, for example, where they're proposing 800 new houses, I mean, that's going to create a huge unmet demand, because it is the young families that are attracted to Brimbank, because this is where they make their start in life. It is a place that they come to because they're aspirational. But to not have these services supporting the growth is something that is addressed in this report. So I'm very happy to endorse this report, and Councillor Borg's words. That's fantastic. And thanks to the officers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkas. Councillors, any want to speak for the motion? Against it? And I'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Moving on to report 12.12, the final draft festival and events policy and strategy for 2022 to 2025. Ms. Dumble, can you please speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is presented to Council to consider adopting the draft festival and events policy and strategy 2022 to 2025. The policy defines Council's roles and ways it will support a program of festival and events and look to partner with others to promote Brimbank as a cultural destination. The draft policy was adopted by Council in November, and Council asked for community feedback via Council's Your Say website, on-site locations, and consultation with community groups and previous festival grant recipients. Council received 9 submissions. A summary of submissions and Council officer responses is at attachment 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dumble. Any questions for Ms. Dumble, councillors? Is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Dang. Councillor Dang, you're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move this motion as share screen.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Borg.
Second the motion as per screen.
Thank you. Councillor Dang, as mover, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Brimbank City Council is proud to deliver a festival and events program that promotes diversity, support gender and social equity, and geography spread across the municipality. The Festival and Events Policy Strategy 2022 to 2025 continues the direction set by 2018 to 2021 policy and strategy. It outlines the resource commitment Council will make and how Council will work with the local community to ensure festival and events are inclusive, best practice, safe, sustainable, and flourishing. COVID has severely impacted community events over the last 2 years. It is wonderful to see the municipality emerging from the shadow of the lockdown to provide festival and events that are more inclusive and better than ever. The strategy reminds us that festival and events are important to stimulate local economic activity, showcasing our great places and attractions, and helping to place Brimbank on the map at a visitor destination. I commend this report to the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Dang. Councillor Borg is second. Would you like to speak?
I just want to commend Councillor Dang's comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillors, anybody else who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Tarkos.
I would like to speak for the motion. However, I just wanted to bring the feedback that was also mentioned in it, that a lot of these events require the work of volunteers. And a lot of these volunteers also have businesses and work full time, and it's very hard for them to organise festivals. In fact, I had feedback from one business owner who said that they're not running an event that was highly successful in drawing people from inside and outside Brimbank because they don't have the support that they need because they're running a huge business at the same time. So I take that feedback on as constructive, and that I hope that there are more innovative and more supportive ways that we can support businesses and people, volunteers across Brimbank from all different cultures to provide those opportunities to run festivals and make this community very diverse and great.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? No, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.13. This is for the draft Calder Park Drive level crossing removal with project urban design principles. Mr. Whiteside, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Funding to remove the Calder Park Drive level crossing was announced by the state government in July last year with a commitment that it would be removed by 2025. The announcement detailed that the level crossing will be removed by constructing a new road bridge over the existing rail line. Council has previously adopted urban design principles for major infrastructure projects delivered by the state government as a key advocacy mechanism. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider endorsing the draft Calder Park Drive level crossing removal project urban design principles, which are at attachment 1 to the report, for community consultation for a 4-week period and inviting written submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. Councillors, any questions? No questions. Is there a mover of the motion? Councillor Rashid.
I'd like to move this report as per shared screen. Thank you.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Liu.
Anyway, I'll second that.
Thank you. Councillor Rashid, as moved, would you like to speak?
I want to say I'm so glad to see that this is happening. It's coming to its finest. So can't wait to see community engagement and obviously result at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Liu, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. As a portfolio champion of connecting Broombank, Madam Mayor, Calder Park Drive is the last remaining vehicle level crossing for pedestrian train line in Brimbank. And this removal will welcome change, improve connections, safety and environmental outcomes. Throughout out on the outer edge of the city, this infrastructure project forms part of the complex series of transport and connectivity projects in the area. The context also includes sensitive and variable ecological sites, existing residential communities, and significant future sustainable development opportunities. The future proofing for the potential new Calder Park station on the Sunbury rail line is a key consideration for this project. And note that the draft urban design principle also along the reintegration of planned upgrade of the Calder Freeway and future expansion of the Calder Park Drive. Incorporating pedestrians and cycle infrastructure is another important aspect of the project. And this urban design principle consider access to the site, such as the Organ Park National Parks, as well as future-proofing long-term recreation and activities transport connections. Protecting the natural environment and amenities and existing community are the subject of a number of these draft urban design principles and really important considerations for both design and construction phase of the project. Madam Mayor, principle number 5 seeks to ensure the project deliver high quality architectural and landscape outcomes. Although on the edge of the urban area, this project should not be considered just as an engineered piece of work infrastructure. The Melbourne Highway level crossing removal to the south of this project area sets a benchmark for integrating good design and maximising landscape opportunity in the project. We hope this urban design principle will be finalised, adopt and use help ensure the Calder Park Drive level crossing removal project deliver the best possible outcome for the community. Madam Mayor, I recommend this report to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Any other councillors who want to speak for the motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would certainly like to endorse the comments made by Councillor Russick and Councillor Liu, and to say I think it's fantastic that this is actually, as pointed out by Councillor Liu, the last crossing to be removed. It is something that has been advocated over decades, and the railway station proposal has also been part of our plans for a very long time. To see the design work that's been done at this early stage is very important to ensure that we get the best outcome. So congratulations to Councillor Russick and Liu raising this, and to the work of the staff. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any councillor want to speak against the motion? I now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.14. This is the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre project. This is the March 2022 update. Mr. Whiteside.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update on the Brimbank and Aquatic Wellness Centre construction project, including an update on the design, construction, budget and program status. The project is currently on budget and on track for completion in 2022. The report is for noting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Kerr.
Move the motion as per the business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tarkos.
Second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, as moved, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak as seconder?
Just to thank our director and all the hard work that's gone into keeping this up to date and not out of budget, and with a opening scheduled for this year, mid this year. So fantastic work, and it's looking amazing every time we drive past it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any councillors want to speak for the motion? Against? I now put this to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to the report 12.50, Green Gully Reserve Northern Precinct Enhancement Plan, the March 2022 update. Mr. Whiteside.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update on the implementation of the Green Gully Reserve Northern Precinct Enhancement Plan, and also to seek Council's consideration of a delegation to the Chief Executive Officer to finalise the purchase of the Commonwealth and State Government native grass offsets. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? No. Is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Madam Mayor, I move the motion as in the business papers.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Okay. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tarkos?
I second the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak as mover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the Director for this update report. This facility, of course, is much needed due to the shortage of grounds in the area and has been planned for a long time and will continue to progress through. This interesting aspect of authorisation to seek native grass offsets is an important thing as part of the process and will be another step in the right direction. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos as seconder, would you like to speak?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors want to speak for the motion? Against? I now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to report 12.16. This is regarding the Sydenham Park Master Plan, the February 2022 update. Mr. Whiteside, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. At the Council meeting in October 2021, Council endorsed the draft Sydenham Park Master Plan Addendum 2021 for community consultation. The draft Sydenham Park Master Plan Addendum 2021 was made available for public comment for a 4-week period from the 5th of November 21 to the 5th of December 21. From the 24 submissions received, 20 were supportive of the draft addendum. The summary of the issues raised in the submissions to the draft addendum 2021 is an attachment 2 to the report. Based on the submissions to the draft Sydenham Park Master Plan Addendum, it's considered no changes are required and therefore it's recommended the Council endorse adopting the final draft Sydenham Park Master Plan Addendum Update 2022, which is attachment 1 to the report. Please note that the item was deferred from Council at the February 22 Council meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Whiteside. Any questions for Mr. Whiteside, councillors? No questions. Is there a mover of a motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move an alternate motion.
Yes, it's on a shared screen, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The details of it I will take as being read.
Can I please confirm that you can see it on the screen?
Yes, that is the alternate motion on the screen. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Rashich.
I second that.
Thank you. So this is now the substantive motion. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak as mover of the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would. There's 4 points and I'll make my way through them. The first point is relocate the maintenance depot to open space on the eastern side of the golf course. The comment here is that locating the maintenance sheds front of house is unsightly and a poor urban design outcome. Taking valuable space at the front of the golf course is inappropriate. A back of house location on vacant land with access from a public road is a better location to hide these ordinary looking buildings. A front of house location would either require removal of significant native vegetation or relocation of part of the existing car park at considerable cost. The back of house site has no trees to be removed. The second point, any additional fencing and gates need to be justified on safety grounds and ensure access to all park users during normal business hours of operation of the park. The comment here is there is strong community support to have the park open to the public as soon as possible. The existing park gate is open in the morning and closed of an evening. Proposed additional fences and 9 additional gates is costly and will require unnecessary additional staff resources to allow these to be operated and maintained. Organ Pipes National Park and Brimbank Metropolitan Park have a single main gate. The location of an additional gate at the front of the golf course is intended to significantly restrict access to the park and make any future use of Robinson's Homestead unfinancial. Pedestrian access from this gate exposes park users to significant traffic dangers and being hit by golf balls. Model aircraft members from all over Melbourne will get vehicle access to the park. However, vehicle access for locals will be prohibited unless they join the Model Aircraft Club for $200, then they will get access. With all these gates, we do not want to create a Sydenham prison or a gated community. The additional gates are simply not needed. In regards to the third point, wording on the plan, the western side of entry amended to show proposed grassland and future recreation facilities. The comments here are Council's infrastructure facilities policy details that 12 sporting grounds will be needed over the next 10 years. Requests have been made by councillors to determine where these grounds will need to be located. No detailed assessment of the future location of sporting facilities has yet been provided. Until this is done, council needs to keep its options open. In regard to the fourth item, Madam Mayor, additional pedestrian cycle path to be provided from the main gate north along the tree line to the path network near Robinson's Homestead. The comment here is this new path would provide safe and shaded access to the park for pedestrians and cyclists. Its location connects the main entrance of the park to Robinson's Homestead and the path network. Vehicles would separately travel along the main entry road adjoining the golf course to Robinson's Homestead. The separation of pedestrians and cyclists from traffic would improve safety and negate the need for costly high netting along the western side of the golf course. I believe there are good urban design plans, urban design intentions with making these alterations, which will help to improve the plan as put to councillors. Accordingly, I would recommend this amended motion to my fellow councillors. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Rashich, would you like to speak as seconder of the motion?
Yes, I would like, thank you. I absolutely agree with Councillor Lancashire and would like to echo what he has said. I would also like to thank Councillor Lancashire, as I know he has worked very hard on preserving and making sure Sydenham Park was put on the map over the past few years. Thank you to everyone who got engaged and made submissions to Council regarding Sydenham Park, and especially thanks to Professor Gary Egan, Anil Heinishen, Richard Cartier, and all other volunteers involved in the Friends of Sydenham Park group, which have done so much in the interest of our community and for the future of Sydenham Park. Factoring in the Councillor Lancashire's amendment, I look forward to seeing Sydenham Park finally open to the public, showcasing one of the best outdoor parks Brimbank has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brajcic. Is there any councillor who want to speak for the motion? Councillor Tarkos.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to support the amendments that have been placed in, very well thought out, and also working with the synergy of the park. Sydenham Park for our community will be totally amazed by what they see when it does finally open. And believe me, I just want it opened yesterday. It's an incredible natural fusion of prehistory, Indigenous history, and recent heritage combined into a unique and unbridled natural oasis. I think the amendments aim to enhance this by protecting and also allowing the pathway to be a lot more, to provide shade for people that go to visit, and also opportunities to explore, but also protect the safety of the visitors and the safety of the park. So it's a very gentle way of exploring what is a magnificent place, because there are parts of it that are quite, to be fair, not suitable for people that have got no experience because of the escarpments being quite steep. So we would need to ensure that some things are gated and some things, the signage is given a clear understanding of the risk involved. But at the same time, we want to promote the kangaroos, the wedge-tailed eagles to feel free to inhabit this amazing corridor. There will be a range which will cater for a lot of people that are going for day trips or even just ecotourism. I think the tree-lined park would be a really good entry point, and I look forward to school children coming here for excursions and even for possible camps. Look, if the airport is looking for places to offset, this would be a really great opportunity as well, because they have got the heritage listed cottage that they could consider, restoring. But all in all, I'm really excited about this to finally be put through tonight in such an environmentally sacred and unique space. I look forward to the final adoption tonight and look forward to the launch and opening of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will not be supporting this amended motion. First of all, the relocation of the golf maintenance depot requires extensive investigations to assess operational requirements, cultural heritage consideration, and flora and fauna issues will be considered. This will be considered also in phase 2. With regards to including the note that any additional fencing and gates need to be justified on safety grounds, I believe it is not required. Council takes the issue of safety very seriously in all matters, and will take any precautions that are required accordingly. Regarding concerns with regards to the restricting entry to Robinson's homestead, exposure of park users to significant traffic dangers and being hit by golf balls are not justified. Indeed, the proposed shared zone along Far Parkway will prioritize walking and cycling, and golf balls will be controlled by strategic placing nets as if required. With regards to the NU path, the path alignment has been done in consultation with the Wurundjeri people and WELP. Any further paths will only delay the progress of the Sydney Park. The community is very much anxious and keen to see this park opened as soon as possible. And again, this path can always be considered later on down the track. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Borg. Councillor Liu, I can see that you want to speak.
Sorry, Mayor, I was a bit too quick. I was supporting the amendment. So I think I'm just speaking on behalf of supporting the amendment. I just want to say that the amendment, it's very practical and sensible. And most importantly, it also future-proof future opportunity if council wish to move on a different path. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor who want to speak against the motion or on the motion before I give Councillor Lancashire a right reply? If not, Councillor Lancashire, would you like to have a right reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, look, just to clarify that the location or relocation site for the maintenance sheds has not been determined. It has been indicated tentatively that it would be at the front of the golf course, but its specific site hasn't been chosen. The rear site and the front site would require an equal amount of work in terms of approval of heritage investigations and approval from DeWelp. So the amount of work involved in determining which of the two sites would be appropriate would be equal, except for the fact, of course, that as indicated, the rear site is all vacant, no trees to be removed, and whereas there are certainly complications where exactly would the other facility go in terms of the front of the site and trees to be removed or loss of car parking. In terms of the path, sorry?
1 minute.
Thank you. In terms of the path, no changes are proposed whatsoever. The existing path network as proposed in the plan is supported by this motion, and that the other path as suggested, which is quite exciting, would be dealt with in the future as a separate consideration. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Lancashire. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Councillors, we've gone through quite a number of reports tonight. Can I please call for a procedural motion to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes for a short break? Councillor David?
Madam Mayor, I move the motions at 12.17 to 12.20 as a block.
Right, Councillor David, I just asked, can we please move a procedural motion for a short break of 5 minutes?
Yeah, you have to do a decision. It's okay. Thank you. Do that.
Yeah. Would you like to move that? Okay, Councillor Rashich.
Move that motion for 5 minutes break. Thank you.
All right, is there a second for that motion? Councillor Borg?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Rashid, would you like to speak to that procedural motion? Councillor Borg? Okay, I'll just put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Councillors, we will reconvene back at 8:50. Hi, councillors. Can we just Can we just double check your mics and your audio?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. We just need to do a sound check of all councillors. So can each councillor just confirm when I call out your name that you can hear me and just repeat your name back? Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Hear you and Maria.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire.
And I can hear you.
Councillor Lou.
You, Councillor Lou.
Councillor Tarkos.
I can hear you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, I can hear you.
Councillor Dang.
Yes, Jane, I can hear you.
Thank you. Councillor Branton.
Yep, can hear you.
Councillor Ball.
Yes, Shane, Councillor Victoria, thank you.
Councillor David.
Councillor David.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia.
Yes, thanks, Shane.
Councillor Rasic.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, councillors.
Yeah. Councillors, can I please get someone to move a procedural motion to recommence the meeting? Councillor Rasic.
Move motion to proceed into the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kartakos.
Second that motion, procedural motion.
Yeah. Look, let's just put to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Yeah, that motion carries. So this meeting continues at 8:52 p.m. Okay. So can I please request council to move reports 12.17 to 12.21 on block? Is there a mover for that?
I move that, Madam Mayor, block.
That's David.
12.17 to 12.20. Thank you.
Thank you. 2021, do you mean? 12.1. That's right, 21. Is there a seconder?
21 it is, yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Tarkos?
Madam Mayor, I second that procedural motion.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. That motion carries. So that's all within the block. Thank you. We'll now move on to our notices of motion, of which we have 6. This is item 13. Councillors, may I please remind you that a notice of motion must be moved as printed in the papers, and only if seconded can amendment be moved. The first notice of motion, this is 13.1, condemning sport bet's harmful marketing campaign. And this is from Councillor Tarkos.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the notice of motion as per shared screen. I'm not going to read it out, but I'm assuming everyone's read it.
Thank you. That is the notice of motion. Is there a seconder for this notice of motion? Councillor Borg.
Second that motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak as the mover of the notice of motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say that, you know, we know how sustained we've had the highest sustained losses of gambling for the last decade. However, what we have seen also is during the pandemic, increases in wagering and sports betting across Victoria, which has taken on a more electronic format, which is fueled by harmful products and marketing campaigns. I am really, really concerned about the impacts this is having on our community, and especially the young kids that are starting off jobs. A lot of these insidious campaigns and ads are continuous, and they ram this impression that get your friend, you know, encouraging people to get their friends or mates onto betting as if it's something that is a positive behaviour, when it is actually one of the worst things you can do is to hook someone into gambling. Dollars was lost on wagering and sports betting in Victoria. This represents a 42% increase over the previous year. and more than 85% of these bets are now made online. So you don't even have to leave your bedroom, or, you know, you could stay indoors. Children could be, you know, teenagers could be betting, you don't know. Data is not available at the local level, but based on our experience with other forms of gambling, it is likely that Brimbank residents have contributed to these increases. We do know that gambling industry is using some insidious strategies and tactics to attract and keep their customers. They advertise continuously during high profile shows, sports, and they also engaged in what's called direct marketing strategies, which are largely hidden from the public eye, but target vulnerable customers. And this is why I've brought this into the chamber today. Between 2020 and March 21, Sportsbet sent more than 150,000 text messages and emails to about 37,000 customers, offering incentives to gamble or alerts about upcoming events. The important thing to remember here is these people were not subscribed. The text messages and emails were sent without consent and did not provide an option to unsubscribe. This is highly unethical. The Australian Communication Media Authority subsequently ordered Sportsbet to pay $2.5 million in fines for these breaches of the Spam Act. Sportsbet have also agreed to refund a further $1.2 million to customers who made bets after receiving these unsolicited messages. So basically, Sportsbet have been punished, but it seems that it's simply the cost of doing their business. They will continue to roll in different ways to target our kids, our community that is highly vulnerable. Since merging with BetEasy in 2020, Sportsbet now have 47% of the market share in Australia, and their recorded revenue is $1.48 billion in 2020. This example highlights the need for stronger government regulation of the gambling industry. I know a lot of governments don't want to do this because they do get support from a lot of these gambling companies, but when you look at the cost to our community, they pay for it in different ways, because poverty, as we know, can be generated from gambling. Council has previously written to the Commonwealth Government calling for a phased ban on all gambling ads in Australia. We will also continue to work with the Alliance for Gambling Reform to support their End Gambling Ads campaign. I encourage this council to maintain its strong advocacy for regulatory reform of the gambling industry, particularly as our community continues to recover from a lot of financial impacts from COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Takos. Councillor Borges, seconder, would you like to speak?
I just want to endorse Councillor Takos's comments, Madam Mayor. She covered the issue very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? Against the motion? Oh, Councillor David, I saw that you raised your hand.
I was going to say, Madam Mayor, if I can allow to speak. Yes, it's to do with, I believe, what Councillor Takos is saying, and he's got every right to come up with this notice of motion. And the last couple of years, due to COVID, those young people of today's modern life that we live, they took the phone. They gamble by phone. And once they do the first bet on that, they get a number of outlets, gambling outlets, to get in touch with them. I don't know how they get in touch with them, but that's what's happening. So it'd be very hard to stop them right now, because I don't think they need to read advertisements or looking at advertisements. They talk with each other. Young people communicate with each other, and you can't stop it. That's the new gambling young people we've got now in our city and throughout, I believe, the state and Australia indeed. So we can only try for the best, but I think it'd be very hard to stop them somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? Now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We'll now move on to the next notice of motion. This is 13.2, heat stress in vulnerable communities of Brimbank. Councillor Tarkos.
Madam Mayor, and just to share the screen again, I'm assuming that all councillors have read the notice of motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
I second the motion as per the shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this motion arose again. I'm bringing to the chamber out of a personal experience of someone reaching out to me who had come out of hospital with underlying conditions and desperately trying to cool their homes and unable to afford to do it and unable to access any support to do it, which led me into research and find out what exactly is available. The climate is getting hotter and we are experiencing a lot more intense emergencies, whether it be flooding or heat waves. But the thing with heat waves is certain people with underlying condition, unless they can keep their body temperature low, will be hospitalised. And indeed, this lady who reached out to me said that if she doesn't get cooling, she will end up in hospital and possibly she could die from her condition. So extreme heat and heat waves are becoming extremely common. I was concerned during that January-February heat waves about the need to improve support to ensure people can be safe and cool in their homes during these periods. Brimbank is an urban hotspot area and is rated as the hottest LGA in metropolitan Melbourne. Due to this, Brimbank's temperatures are several degrees above surrounding areas, and this increases health risks, especially to vulnerable people. It is known that urban hotspots are generally located in lower socioeconomic areas in Melbourne where people can struggle to stay cool. Research conducted by VCOS, Feeling the Heat 2021 has highlighted the impacts of extreme heat on people. These include increased sickness, mortality, mental health issues, increased family violence, and higher levels of financial stress. Extreme heat and heat waves can also lead to poorer social and health outcomes for our community who struggle to keep cool. The Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan recognises the impact of heat waves on our community and the need to engage with local emergency health services. With this notice of motion, I'm asking that the Victorian Government provide targeted programs to support low-income families, including the Heating and Cooling Upgrades Program. The program provides a subsidy rebate of $1,000 towards the cost of the purchase of a reverse cycle air conditioner, but does not cover the full purchase cost and installation, which is estimated at about $1,700. A co-payment is onerous to many of our people in Brimbank on low incomes and is a disincentive to those who are in most need for this type of program. I believe that Council should advocate to the Victorian Government to fully fund the purchase and installation of air conditioning for people with low incomes and high vulnerability in our community. Through this motion, I encourage councillors to maintain our strong advocacy for improved subsidised supports and protect the most vulnerable. Thank you.
Councillor Tarkos. Can I please have this, would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to. I would just like to commend Councillor Tarkos for listening to the most vulnerable in the community and bringing this very important issue forward. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor David.
Madam Mayor, another good notice of motion. I think it's and if governments, regardless which in the chair, if they agree to have such a sort of supply to the seniors and elderly people, if you have the doctor order, as they say. And I myself, I know a lot of people. It doesn't matter if it's a hot summer or a very cold winter. You know what they do? They go to the shopping centers. That's what they do. They do their sandwiches or set foot, they put them in the back, they go to the shopping centers to stay there all day. They've got the facilities there, like toilet facilities and other amenities there. So they stay all day. Winter time, they wait until the shopping center is finished and they drive home. That's what they do. They haven't got anything at home, so that's what they do. They try to save themselves from winter times and that of summer times. So I think it's a good idea if we can ask Mrs. Abroccio to try and see if we can see the good in this type of request by us. Yeah, I fully support that. Thank you.
Councillor David. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Yeah, okay, so I think we'll now put the motion to the vote if no one else wishes to speak. All those in favour? Oh, Councillor Rajcic. Oh, no, okay, noted. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, you can please now raise your hand. That motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item 13.3, the state government announcements regarding the proposed social housing rates exemption and the social and affordable housing contribution levy and planning reform. This is from Councillor Liu.
Madam Mayor, I'll move you share screen. Anybody read that or can see that? It's a bit small. Considering the importance of the legislations and the greater impact it could and would have on the operation of our municipality, I'll read this out. Madam Mayor, I move that the council write to the Victorian Minister of Housing, the Honourable Richard Flynn, and the Treasurer of Victoria, Mr. Pallas. 1, welcoming the state government decision not to proceed with the proposed legislation and policy initiative of the social housing rate exemption and the social affordable housing contribution levy. 2, noting and supporting the state government commitment to not proceed with the initiative if we elected. 3, seeking clarification of the state government's intention regarding pursuing social and affordable housing policy initiative. And 4, seeking clarification regarding the annual government commitment to the planning reform agenda. B, write to the Victoria Minister for Planning, the Honourable Richard Wynne, seeking clarification of the annual government commitments for the planning reform agenda, improving the operation of Victorian planning system and its administration by local government. C, write to the President of the Municipal Association of Victoria, Councillor David Clark, advising of Brimbank Council welcoming of the recent state government announcement of abandoning the proposed social housing rate exemption and the social and affordable housing contribution levy, and raising concern regarding the future of planning reform in Victoria. D, provide a copy of this with correspondent to the Honourable Natalie Hudson, Member of Sydenham, Miss Natalie Silverman, Member of St Albans, and Miss Kate Hall, Member for Footscray.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Is there a seconder? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Liu, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, the council annually with a moderate tight budget seek to provide a variety of service to its community, such as park, waste management, kindergarten, active transport, maternal and child health, and routine maintenance for the council, for the municipality. Like many other councils across Victoria, our council budget is derived mainly from the contribution of rate from its residents. So when the state government initially proposed a social housing rate exemption and affordable housing levy, it was a great concern to council that would flow effects to the communities. The proposed social housing rate exemption legislation alone would deprive Brimbank City Councils and its community an estimated sum of 2.6 million for annual budget, placing council in a no-win position, and when it comes into maintenance, let alone enhancing or much needed community service. It is to great relief that the state government in recent days announced that they would not proceed with initiative if we elected, I welcome their commitment to abandon the proposal. I would also like to emphasise that we all acknowledge that increased access to social housing dwelling is vital in relieving homelessness, and having housing options plays a critical role. However, social housing is clearly a state responsibility. It should be supported and subsidised by the Victorian government, not just by ratepayers and of each municipality. Again, I'd like to welcome and support the governments for not continuing with this proposal. However, I would like to seek further clarification regarding the Andrew government commitments to the planning reform agenda. I hope this shines a clear message to that this council do not support such legislation, nor the possibility of a reintroduction of such legislation in the future without compromising the service and need for our community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I congratulate Councillor Liu for raising this important issue. Look, when I started as a town planner, the rule of thumb for housing in costs was land was 1/3 of the cost and housing was 2/3 of the cost. The rule of thumb now is land is 2/3 of the cost and housing is 1/3 of the cost. A recent UDIA, the Urban Development Institute of Australia report, has indicated that the tax on housing now sits at 42%, of which local government gets quite a small percentage of that. That's a dreadful impost in terms of our social and affordable housing taxes. And I think the point being raised by Councillor Liu is that we don't need an additional tax on top of that, which is quite outrageous already and very detrimental to our community. Thank you, Councillor Liu. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Lancashire. Would any of the council like to speak for the motion? Councillor Tarkos.
Yes, I'd like to support this notice of motion as well. I think it's really not supporting social housing in any way. What it's doing is putting the pressure on a municipality that shoulders the greatest social housing and tries to eliminate the state government from paying rates for it, which it has been paying rates for years by deferring those rates. And what would happen is that those rates would be eventually paid for by the poorest in the community. So we would be shouldering those rates that are bypassed by the state government. And what that would create is more poverty, because people that are already struggling to pay their rates will be at risk of having to sell their homes to just support, they wouldn't be able to because we are also rate capped as well. We would have to somehow that cost would be shifted back to council. So it is actually having a reverse effect by creating more disadvantage and for the people with the most need, shouldering the social housing tax and also the rates waiver as well. So I fully support this notice of motion by Councillor Liu, and also that the millions of dollars we would be losing in our rates revenue would mean that where do we start cutting, in our very, very tight budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Would any of the council like to speak against the motion? Well, good. I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion, oh wait, anybody voting against the motion, please raise your hand. Any abstentions? All right, that motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to notice of motion 13.4, Taylor's Road Declaration and Upgrade. Councillor Rashid, would you like to bring up
Yes, I would like to move this motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Confirm this is what is on the shared screen, yes?
Yeah, thank you.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Lancashire?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rashid, would you like to speak to your notice of motion?
I would like to thank you, Mother Mayor. My passion for upgrading Taylor's Road is no surprise to any of you here tonight. I did it 6 months ago and I thought I will revisit it. This congested and often gridlock road needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed now. The responsibility for maintaining Taylor's Road, west of Kings Road, lies with Brimbank and Melbourne City Council. However, the responsibility to upgrade the road to accommodate regional transport requirements lies with the state government. The section of Taylor's Road between Kings Road and Watervale Boulevard is an urgent need of upgrading. There is congestion at peak and off-peak as well, causing delays for commuters in Brimbank. We also need traffic lights at the intersection of Tennyson Drive and Taylor's Road, Delegate. I'm glad this has been the form part of council plan draft by council officers for consideration when Taylor's Road is declared and duplicated. There are tens of thousands of homes currently being developed in the suburbs directly off Taylor's Road, and this is not sustainable without serious upgrade to the stretch of Taylor's Road maintained in my notice of motion. We welcome the government's investment in upgrading roads right across the West, including arterial roads and major freeways. I urge them to upgrade this dangerous stretch of road once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rashid. Councillor Lancashire, second. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I congratulate Councillor Russick in raising this matter. It certainly is an important issue for this municipality. This municipality aligns itself largely in a north-south manner. So our east-west links are very important. Ballarat Road, Taylor's Road, Main Road East and West are all very important links, both to the suburbs to the east and particularly to the massive growth that is occurring out to the west. And it's taking an increasing level of traffic. And during our Western region meeting and talking to councillors from Melton, they were emphasising the amount of growth that will be occurring in Melton and Wyndham that will be pushing through these roads. It's congested now and it is only going to get worse. So it certainly needs to be a priority, and I would strongly support the motion being put forward by Councillor Rasic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would any of the council like to speak for the motion? Councillor Liu?
May I just will say, as a connectivity portfolio holder, I congratulate Councillor Rasic for making my job much easier. Well done, good work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I saw Councillor Kerr had your hand up, yes?
Thanks. I just want to say thank you to Councillor Rasic for bringing this forward again. This is probably one of the biggest issues that we face in Taylor's Ward at the moment. The congestion on Taylor's Road is unbearable. We've also got flooding issues on Taylor's Road. It happens every time there's heavy rainfall. I took this stretch of road from Caroline Springs to Keilor for 10 years straight, and it's not just during peak times. There's congestion there. It's a fatality waiting to happen. We've got some major schools. It's a gateway now to all these new suburbs like Deanside and Rock. Goodness me, I forgot the name of it now. But there's so many new developments heading past Caroline Springs that this has become a huge main thoroughfare. I invite the Honourable Ben Carroll, who is the neighbouring MP to our area, to come out and have a look and visit the site and have a look at what these residents are contending with. So just wanted to say thanks again for raising this issue, because it's very important, and I call on the state government to really put in some funding for this area. It's in desperate need. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Branton.
Deer Park, the intersection between Ballarat Road and Station Street or Station Road is really bad. It's really congested at every peak hour, and there are frequently accidents, really shocking accidents. I think twice I've seen the light posts have snapped in half. That's a dangerous intersection. That one's a shocking one. I don't put forward a motion just for that one because I don't know that that one's the most dangerous one. If that one's suddenly pushed to the top of the list, a more dangerous one might be shoved further down the list. When we cherry pick like this, there's a list already there that is putting the most dangerous and most important ones at the top. And then this is just shoving those ones down the list. So I don't think this is fair to all the other areas in Brimbank. I like the idea of advocating towards the state government for more money to improve our roads, but if we're going to do that, I think it should be for all of Brimbank and not cherry picking intersections and roads in one ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Branton. Would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? Any other councillor like to speak before I give it to would any other councillor like to speak before I give Councillor Rush the right of reply? Councillor Tarkos.
Madam Mayor, for as long as I can remember, this road has been a very highly intensely used road because of those new developments. And the issue has always been who has the authority? Is it the local government? Is it the state? And it's just pushed out the need to get this road fixed for too long. We're building a major infrastructure with a swimming pool that will be a regional swim centre. People will be attracted from all over the region to come. And in the time that I've visited this swim centre, I saw 2 accidents in front of my eyes, on the same day. And that's not uncommon on this road. And I take on board what you say, Sarah, but I think that this road has not got the capacity because it is the only road that links into these new development areas, and it's just going to the areas are going to grow outwards because it's greenfields that it's connecting it to, and people to get to a swimming pool that they really need will be stuck in traffic, I imagine, for hours and probably give up hope. So I think this is an important priority, and as I said, for as long as I can remember, this road has been in the pipeline to get fixed.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. And again, would any other councillor like to speak before Councillor Rashid gets a right of reply? Councillor Rashid, would you have a right of reply if you'd like to speak?
I would love to, thank you. Unfortunately, Councillor Branton, it doesn't work like that. I wish it did, so we can all put together all the roads and fix them at once. But as a certain ward councillor, I have to fight for my ward and I have to put this through. I do believe that the road that you mentioned is as dangerous, maybe more, maybe less. It's not up to me to decide, but living on this side of the town and seeing how bad it gets and how worse it's going to get, I am putting it forward. I'm not asking here for council to put money into it. I'm asking for state to declare and to duplicate. So again, I'm working together with my councillors here for our community, for my ward. Again, I'm not the mayor to work on whole Brimbank. I have to work on my ward, and this is what I'm doing right now. And I encourage you, in future, if you think some road has an issue, if you put them through, I will support, because I am all about safety of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rashid. Now that the Viva has their right of reply, we'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. That motion carries.
Like division, this is safety issues. Thank you so much.
Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Kerr, Councillor Lancashire, Councillor Liu, Councillor Tarkos, Councillor Dang, Councillor Borg, Councillor David, Councillor Papalia, Councillor Ryshich, Councillor Nguyen. All those against? Councillor Branton. We'll now move on to, that motion carries. We'll now move on to notice of motion 13.5. This is for the support for the people of Ukraine. Councillor Tarkos.
Thank
you. Like,
yeah. I'll just share the screen. People have, I'm sure, read the notice of motion.
Yes. Thank you. Is there a second for this notice of motion? Councillor Dang.
Madam Mayor, I second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, as the beginning of this notice of motion, would you like to speak?
Madam Mayor, fellow councillors, as we gather in the chamber, we are reminded how privileged we are to gather in peace and exercise our freedom of speech. It is that very freedom and the privileges it brings that we must never forget, and how hard it was won and fought by, and how much we and past and future generations value this freedom. That is why I have brought this notice of motion into the chamber. It's not, I don't bring international issues, and I haven't in the last 6 years I've been a councillor, but those very freedoms that we cherish are being taken away as we speak from the people of Ukraine, and any country's sovereignty and territory that is threatened must be protected. The unprovoked actions of Putin against Ukraine must be condemned in the strongest possible way, and unconditional withdrawal supported to stop the bloodshed, the destruction of the proud independent people and a country that has enjoyed freedoms that democracy brings, and the right to choose its own future and destiny. Because there is no other way. We all experience the vile horror when we turn the news bulletins on to see the shellings of towns, the shellings of hospitals, the displacement of innocent people, the disruption and long-lasting trauma it causes children and adults' lives cannot and should not be tolerated. If the first casualty of war is truth, then the second must be the rise of autocratic governments everywhere that are repressive and intolerant of the freedoms of its people. This must be fought with vigour. 2 million people have already fled from Ukraine. A mounting refugee crisis is emerging and already being felt in Europe. My message is that all refugees are welcome here in Brimbank. Madam Mayor, I want to share with you a story which really profoundly affected me, of a mother escaping with her 6-year-old daughter and 4-year-old autistic son. The journey to escape began on the 25th of February. They caught a 15-hour evacuation train to Lviv, bus to the border, and now face homelessness in Poland, where Warsaw has become inundated with refugees and accommodation is impossible to find. Finally, I wish to express our utmost solidarity with the people of Ukraine residing here in Brimbank. I commend the federal government for approving more than 1,000 refugee visas with a view of extension. Getting people out to safety, both our people and other countries, is a priority, as well as getting immediate humanitarian aid and assistance to those in need. We stand by your side, Ukraine. We condemn the path of death and destruction and urge Putin, in the name of humanity and peace, to cease the war. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor Dang, would you like to speak as seconder?
Madam Mayor, thank you, Councillor Tarkos, to move this significant motion to support the Ukrainians. It's really sad and heartbreaking when reading the news that the Russian force had gunned down on women and children, killing the civilians who were trying to escape the village near Kiev. It had recalled of my family situation when we tried to escape from the middle of Vietnam to the south in April 1975. The invasion of Russia is unacceptable. This is a war crime. My thoughts and prayers to the Ukrainians and the people of Ukrainian heritage in Australia, particularly those who live in Brimbank. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Dang, would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This humanitarian crisis has touched each and every one of us, for some more than others. The horrendous pictures and the stories we are hearing send shivers down the spine. For many residents in Brimbank, they also trigger past traumas as they themselves had to endure invasions by another country and ended up having to leave their homeland for fear of their lives. For the people of Ukraine and so many others that are affected by such atrocities, we stand with you. You are very much in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Would any other councillor like to speak against the motion? No. Any councillors like to speak? Okay, Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congratulations to Councillor Tarkos for raising this. Mainly, speaking from a refugee perspective, this family has experienced the communist regime and fled his homeland because of the destruction and the devastation effect of war. We are all shocked at what's happening in Ukraine with the violent attack on innocent people, the casualty of war and the greed of power. And as a serviceman now, I'm proud to see to say that Australia acted quickly to provide military assistance and aid to those who are affected, and that Australia continues to stand united with our friend and family in Ukraine. I hope the rest of the world stands strong, stick together, and not bow under pressure, not bow under internal pressure, political pressure, and abandon our friend in Ukraine. I hope this sends a clear message to any other power contemplating similar military conquests. They too will face with massive resistance if they do so. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, look, I congratulate Councillor Tarkos on raising this, and I strongly support her comments and the comments of my fellow councillors in relation to this matter. I absolutely condemn the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And
Excuse me, Councillor Lancashire. I see Councillor David has their hand up. Did you want to raise a point of order?
Go ahead, Madam Mayor. Let Councillor Lancashire finish. Yeah. Thank you.
You don't have a point of, can you please put down your hand icon?
I'll be speaking for the motion, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, but your hand icon is up.
Sorry?
Your hand is up on
Yes,
Zoom.
I put my hand so I can speak after Councillor Lancashire. Is that okay or not?
Noted.
I'll put it down. Okay.
Noted, thank you. Councillor Lancashire, you continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, and I certainly strongly support the people of Ukraine. And I guess what I'd like to concentrate on in the couple of minutes I have is the humanitarian crisis with 100,000 people a day leaving Ukraine and the massive support effort that's being provided by Poland and other countries. And I do believe Australia needs to do everything possible. We have empty aircraft, we have empty centres up in the north of Melbourne that and down at Portsea that have room available for refugees. We have centres around Australia that have been set aside for COVID contamination and are no longer occupied by people. I think there is an enormous amount we could be doing And while I appreciate the 1,000 people that have been pushed to the top of the list, I think it should be more in the order of 100,000 that we should be looking at. We normally take in 300,000 migrants a year. We haven't done this for 2 years. I think we could do a lot more. And the previous generation dealt with a similar Russian blockade of Berlin and operated the breaking of the Berlin blockade with an airlift. I think we need to be doing something similar here and helping the refugees as much as possible and have our own airlift to get as many out here as possible and give them a secure home. I strongly support the words being put forward by everyone. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Councillor David.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah. Look, it's I listened to all of us here, and it is something terrible that's happening before us. But here in Brimbank, and I'm referring to Ardea, those who know Ardea, and I just heard Councillor Lancashire saying Polish. Well, the little Ardea, the pocket down the road from here, it was built by the Ukrainians and that of the Polish people. I used to watch them as a young man helping each other to build their houses. They build them themselves. No builders, they build them themselves. They build, the Polish build their own church. The Polish likewise. They had a hall. One of them, Ukrainian, the Polish built another hall. So it's to me, it's a good message perhaps, and I hope that they listen to us tonight. And somehow we feel not just sorry, but it's a sorry. The world is feeling sorry for what is happening today, and I hope that some sort of a find some sort of a way to stop this. And I think it will happen shortly. This is my feeling. They will stop it just the next couple of days. I hope, yes. So I'll leave it to that. Let's hope so. But it is indeed a terrible thing that watching on television now. Years ago, it was worse, but nobody knew what was happening. But today, we watch every day what's happening. It's terrible. Very much indeed. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. No one else wishes to speak on this motion. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Councillors, I wish to lodge a notice of motion at this meeting. This is for item 13.6. Please note that under section 2711 of the Broome Governance Rules, that the Deputy Mayor will now assume the chair for the duration of item 13.6. Thank you, Councillor Dang. Madam Deputy Mayor, you are now the chair of this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now we move to the motion 13.6, Asylum Seekers Advocacy. I would like to invite Madam Mayor to present your notice of motion.
Please, on the shared screen. As councillors, I would like to move this notice of motion, seeking advocacy for asylum seekers, as on the screen. Thank you.
Is there a seconder of the motion? Thank you, Councillor Ball. Madam Mayor, would you like to speak to the motion?
Absolutely, with pleasure. As you would know, Broombank Council has a long and proud history of advocating and supporting refugees and asylum seekers. And we are one of the executive members of the local government mayoral task force supporting people seeking asylum. In support of the current Back Your Neighbour campaign, Broombank, as a part of 50 Australian councils across the country, signed a joint letter seeking the Prime Minister's urgent intervention to provide certainty for people who are currently stranded without the basic support and safety that they need to build their lives in the Australian community. There are currently around 100,000 people living in the Australian community who are attempting to survive without access to support while they wait for the refugee status determination. The result is a great deal of harm to individuals and families and significant cost shifting to the local government sector as local councils and unfunded charities are forced to respond to additional community for emergency relief and other local community support programs. As a part of this task force, please note on the 31st of January this year, Hobart City Council adopted a motion advocating for the release of refugees and asylum seekers who were brought to onshore detention in Melbourne through medical evacuation. Likewise, in February, the 14th of Feb, the city of Greater Dandenong carried a similar notice of motion. Look, Brimbank is a proudly diverse community with a large proportion of refugees and asylum seekers. And I know too well myself. We are the local government area that welcomes the second highest number of refugees and asylum seekers in Victoria. We are a refugee welcome zone, and we made a huge commitment to welcome refugees into our community, and we uphold the rights of refugees. So I would like to urge the councillors to support our other councils who put for a notice of motion to strengthen the collective message on this very important issue. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Ball, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to retaliate Councillor Nguyen's comments. The retention of these refugees is not justified, as already mentioned. The mental health of these refugees is highly jeopardized. Some of them, for example, are kept in the Melbourne Park Hotel in Melbourne, which is an inappropriate location to keep these refugees indefinitely. Understandably, refugees are highly traumatized by the circumstances back home. The fact that they are detained indefinitely and the unfavorable place to detain them compounds to their mental health predicament. This is quite inhumane and breaches the Refugee Convention. As a local government, it's important to join other councils and advocate on their behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? So I'll put the motion to the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. So I declare this motion carried. Councillor, the Mayor will now return to the chair the remainder of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So those were all the notices of motions. We'll now move on to item 14, notices of motion rescissions. There are no rescission motions. And now to urgent business. Mr. Acting CEO, Mr. Ma, is there any urgent business?
No, Madam Mayor, there's no items of urgent business.
Thank you. And item number 16, confidential business. There are no confidential business items. Okay, well, we're now going to close the meeting. Thank you all for attending the meeting and for your interest in tonight. I declare this meeting closed at 9:44 p.m.